Доброго дня, шановні пані та панове.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. UCMC continues its work, and we greet everyone who joined us here and online. The topic of the briefing is the report on the activity of NABU for the second quarter of 2020. Our guests are Artem Sitnik, director of NABU, and the head of SAPO, Mr. Grishuk, acting director. So, good afternoon. This is our report for, this is the 12th report that we provide. We report twice a year, in August and in February, twice a year, and we have results we want to share with you. And we would like to tell you about the challenges we faced in 2020 and what we expect in the future. If we analyze our work overall, the number of suspects and the cases, charges increase at the same time, challenges increase in the work of NABU and SAPO and the Anti-Corruption Court. In the second quarter of 2020, we sent 35 acts, 76 suspects. Then we implemented special international cooperation to investigate Ukravtodor case. Also, we prevented embezzlement for 800 million hryvnias, and we returned money to the state budget of Ukraine. So at the stage of pre-trial investigation, we considered 50 million, and we want to present a short video, and after this we will continue our discussion. In 5 years of our work, we got accustomed to the fact that there are attempts to somehow stop the work of anti-corruption bodies, to deprive them of their responsibilities. I will be open. During the last half year of 2020, there were many events that significantly influenced anti-corruption infrastructure. First, I would like to remind you about those decisions of the Constitution Court that happened in second half of 2020. This is about cancellation of the order of the president and appointments, and the law of Anti-Corruption Bureau, and they tried to limit the responsibilities of NABU. We are not surprised by this, but new things appeared These were night shifts of persecutors and night shifts of cases to other bodies of pre-trial investigation, the use of Pechersky's court when they use resources of General Prosecutor's Office and Pechersk court resources to get these cases. And in the law on procedural code, there is direct ban to provide these cases from NABU to other bodies of pretrial investigation. This negatively influences the system and negatively influences our image abroad. There are concerns raised concerning this. We are moving forward. In 2020, there are verdicts, real sentences with deprivation of liberty, and anti-corruption court started its work, and people are brought to responsibility through High Council of Justice. And we saw the video in district court concerning this. From one side, we see a real movement ahead. From the other side, we see that for the last half year of 2020, even now, things are ongoing that are directed to cynically prevent the work of the bodies. And we hope that this year will differ from 2020. And we hope that the system will work properly and will bring results. A huge problem is that there is no head of anti-corruption prosecutor's office. Acting head of anti-corruption prosecutor's office, they lack responsibilities that the head has, and it produces negative effect on investigations of NABU, because we need to go to prosecutor's office, and we all know what is ongoing there, especially at night. And this topic is manipulative one about economic effect of our office. In other countries of the world, this body does not cover expenses. We are not a profit enterprise, and we have efficient work. More than billion hryvnia were returned to the budget. 800 million embezzlement was prevented. So this is the economic effect of our work, and this is only a start, because the main effect will be after verdicts will be brought concerning those cases that we bring to the court. So the work is ongoing. Despite those things that happened in 2020, detectives and the head of the NABU, we are moving ahead. And as the head of the bureau, I may guarantee that we will not be involved in politics. It is hard to refrain from it, but we continue to be neutral, non-political. And I will give the floor to Mr. Grishuk, and he will be able to provide answers to your questions.
Натисніть кнопку.
Dear colleagues, can you hear me? That's true that today we have this report for the second half of the 2020. That year appeared to be an extremely hard, and we had been expecting that it would be quite successful, but nevertheless it was like it was. For the first time preparing this report, we had an extremely good cooperation with our foreign partners, particularly with the Polish Anti-Corruption Bureau and with the prosecutor's office of that country when we investigated the case of the former president of Ukraine Avtodor, who committed unlawful deeds when staying in his post, and that's as a good example of efficient cooperation. This is the first, but I believe that it can become the precedent. Besides that, we issued suspicions to two MPs, and the suspicions were about unlawful revenues offered and received for the proper, so to say, voting of bills in the parliament. This shows that within rather short period of time we managed to investigate this case and finish it with some results. So we opened investigations in August and September, and as of today, in early 2020, we have filed our cases to court. This is, I think, the good results which show that we are working effectively. And we expect that courts will make their verdicts, and those verdicts will become a good outcome of our work, because we are absolutely sure that according to investigation results, the verdict should be rather severe about deprivation of liberty, that is about terms in prison, and we believe that despite those verdicts, which are now at the stage of appeal, the result will be still the same. Another achievement is that during that year we managed to fill in the vacant positions of prosecutors, and now we are very proud to say that we have the fully filled positions in our position list, and we expect that this positive impact on the second half year of 2020 will not only reveal itself but stay for the future. Actually, during that half a year, we faced the challenges which were quite new for us, but nevertheless we responded to them successfully. So the report is, as you see it in front of you, and I am ready to answer your questions, dear colleagues. If you want to ask questions, please raise your hands, and please don't forget to present yourself. Novikov Slovo and Dilo publication. And whether you have any investigations about the Pechersk court cases or investigations, because this is very notoriously famous court, and quite often people want to know what is to be done. Article 375 of the Criminal and Procedural Code of Ukraine was repealed, unfortunately, after after bringing of one of the judges to responsibility, and in a result of that repealing of the article, the cases were transferred from us to other agencies, investigation agencies. But the issue is not about the court, but the issue is about the prosecutors' general area of responsibility, area of mandate, and it is not acceptable that the Pechersk District Court dares to interfere into the powers of the Prosecutor General Office. Then in our legislation there is a direct provision which prevents from transferring cases from our sphere of responsibility and investigation to other agencies. But nevertheless, unfortunately, that was done in our case, and we clearly see that the Pechersk court decisions quite often are used to avoid investigation of all corruption cases in our body. By the way, many people dream about repealing of this Article 36, which directly prevents from transfer of cases from our responsibility, from our jurisdiction to the jurisdiction of our other investigation bodies, if those cases are about corruption issues. We quite often observe that claims come to court and claimant keep submitting those claims unless they happen to get a judge who is ready to open the case. One comment from me. We have to investigate the misdeeds of judges without connection to the geographical location of the court. Mr. Leros today reflected on his Facebook that there are now searchers in Ukrenergo because of the suspicion that they sold some energy for improper prices, something like that. Is that true? That's true that searches are carried out, and I can confirm that this case is about sales of electric energy to some commercial structures. The investigation started with suspicion that discrimination conditions were created intentionally to allow, discriminative conditions were created intentionally to allow some commercial consumers to buy electricity much cheaper than the other commercial competitors. I cannot tell you when exactly that investigation was registered and commenced, but before starting that, we received a complaint about that on the one hand. On the other hand, we looked at publications in mass media. I would like to ask you about investigations about MPs Alexander Granovsky and Igor Kononenko. When we can hope to see issued suspicions to them? We have draft versions of suspicions, but the prosecutors and detective have discrepancies in their vision whether those facts and evidence that they have collected are sufficient for conviction. And quite recently, the administrative court had taken decision as to one of those MPs, although our investigation is of criminal nature, not of administrative, so they have nothing to do with that. I am Olha Nishenko from Objective Information Agency. Artem, it's a question to you. At the very beginning, you mentioned officially you are recognized as a corruptioneer in court, but nevertheless you take this position, and whether you see any discrepancies and in that. That's true that I am included into the register of those persons who had committed corruption deeds, and I used to comment on that many times, and actually I'm bored about that. Many experts used to comment about constitutional collision in this case. The verdict against me was based based on the individual act. For example, if I issue my internal decree that I had started my mandate in the post which I had received, it expires very quickly. And when that case which you mentioned was filed to court by puppet MPs, one of the oligarchs, actually it has no legal consequences, and moreover, currently there is nothing in the legislation which can be used as grounds for similar or such submissions. As of now, I continue to work as I used to do, and in line with the legislation, I'm appointed to the post for 7 years, and in order to preserve the potential of the Anti-Corruption Bureau, it might be useful to ensure that the right procedure for appointment and dismissal of the director of the Anti-Corruption Bureau, and to ensure proper competition for the filling in the vacancy. The next question, please. Good afternoon. I'm from Nash TV channel. Perhaps you have heard that our TV channel had been being picketed for 3 times during the last days, and one of those people is Mr. Kaval, who has a very doubtful criminal record. Perhaps he should be somehow prevented from this. I cannot provide any evaluations, any moral evaluations as a representative of NABU, because this is more the competition, more the competence of the law enforcement agencies. By the way, the Anti-Corruption Bureau director has nothing to do with the formation of the Public Advisory Council under his bureau. I am not responsible for this man in any way. I have no impact on that. Because that advisory public council is formed via online voting, and I have nothing to do with the dismissal of the council. What I can say, I would suggest you to apply to the Public Advisory Council under our bureau, to which Mr. Karas belongs, and request his dismissal from them. I have a question. There is such rumors that the Mr. Josep Borrell, the EU High Commissioner, believes that there are some positive moves as to anti-corruption in Ukraine, but nevertheless the corruption persists, and whether and that this is a precondition for macroeconomic support of the EU. Can you comment on that? What can I comment? For us, it is extremely important to feel support from the international partners, because it's extremely difficult to act in the anti-corruption area in Ukraine, and we are happy that he provided positive evaluation of our efforts, and it seems to me that the political forces in Ukraine, that authorities in Ukraine, they know sufficient to evaluate adequately our work. As of today, the threat to the oligarchs and their servants comes not only from our bureau, but also from the anti-corruption court, etc. So when the voting for any law is held in the parliament, you clearly see how those that people try to repeal some pieces of legislation which prevent them from taking bribes for voting. Or when you observe how judges take improper decisions in courts and try to bring them to responsibility, they immediately make attempts to repeal the provision which allows you to bring them to responsibility and collect evidences against them. When there is a claim of NAFTA, the Constitutional Court immediately makes decision that Ukr-NAFTA should does not fall within jurisdiction of our bureau, and that we cannot investigate those cases. As of today, we observe the pace. The pace and progress, which could be called one steps forward and one step back, or even one step back, two steps forward. Actually, we should take measures to stop this backward movement. I have a question coming from ordinary man. Before Mr. Zelensky was elected, each 2 weeks we heard about notorious cases. The latest was Hrinchak and some MPs who were detained. As of now, we cannot see such cases, including the mass media. And the second question, why people are not in jail? We recollect that case about Grinchak, $100,000 of bribe, and now there are 2 years in court and nothing happens. This is a question which is quite often asked to us, and now this is my question to you.
About whether people are sent to prison or not. We have real sentences, and this trend will increase. Resonance cases. We are working in accordance with the procedural criminal court, and the defendant and the claimant rights are adhered to. And in the Code of 2012, we have such norms, and we work in accordance with the legislation. And in the court, there are many instances. Cases are not heard, and this is not due to the prosecutors. We have pandemic. 1/3 of the cases were not heard because people were not able to come. So in order not to have these cancellations, we should adhere to procedures fully. We should study materials. We should hear the witnesses, the defendants, to hear their side, and then the decision will be taken by court, and it will be fair. And we believe that we have positive results in our work because there are real sentences with real jail terms. These are the representatives of the court, economic court, 9 years of imprisonment. This is economic court in Odessa Oblast. Judge, I cannot tell you the name of this judge. Also former head of Kherson power plant, and this is 5 years of imprisonment in accordance with the sentence provided by the first instance. The former prosecutor's office official, 2 years of real imprisonment. So there are such cases, and we will have more cases like this. This is a positive result for us. The cases, they are being heard, and we see real results. This is seen not only by us. Other side also sees this. The defendant side, they also see this, and the number of agreements increase, And this is a good result. And you ask why people are not sent to prison. When people see the first results and they see that they may be sent to prison, and they see that even after the Court of Appeal, cases are sentences are imposed and people are sent to prison, and people understand that then they may have agreement with investigation, and we report on this, and we make this information public. This is our result, and we provide it. So I would like to add, I'm surprised that you've mentioned that case, that this is some sort of big case. Maybe someone wanted to show that this is a resonance case, but the case you've mentioned is a standard case. Absolutely. If you study our report, we provide more information on this. If we speak about quality and quantity of cases, despite all things we've voiced today, we have such cases, and they are on the site, on Facebook, on the site of NABU and SAPO. The matter is, not everything we do reach the TV channels. Who decides what will be highlighted by TV channels? Maybe oligarchs, and they are dissatisfied with, for example, Privatbank case and Rotterdam Plus cases and other cases like this. We do not have our own media resources, and if you want, you may look at our site. I would like to bring one example. When anti-corruption operation was implemented with our Polish colleagues, no channel in Ukraine showed it, no channel. And this was news #1 in Poland, and all Polish channels have shown our briefing with Mr. Grysiuk. We were on Polish channels, and in Ukraine, no one have shown us. And all the media strategy of TV channels is against our organization and those who investigate cases. And if people want to get this information, you may watch it, you may analyze it, and to come to some conclusions. And Maxim mentioned this. For example, for the first time in history, 135 million hryvnias are provided to the budget as a deposit, and no one channel have provided information about it. And people try to make agreements. They compensate to the budget millions of hryvnias. Have you heard this information on our channels? I believe you haven't. So agenda is formed by people who are not interested in properly showing our work. I cannot hear him. Okay, maybe your channel presented this information, but we haven't seen this. And such, we haven't seen such channels. Or, for example, if we speak about bribes, they speak about it on YouTube or Facebook channels. So we really do our job. Please speak to the mic, otherwise we won't be able to hear you. Thank you, dear colleagues. Thank you for finding time for important things like fighting corruption. Thank you for highlighting our activity. We have a question from our colleagues who cannot be here, but they watch us online. The question from the journalist of Reuters: do you investigate the case of Stepanov, healthcare minister, concerning coronavirus vaccines procurement, about Sinovac vaccine? Has NABU started the investigation concerning this abuse, including the increase of prices in procurement, without names? NABU started investigation. This investigation was started in February. Several days ago we started it. This is about procurement of the vaccine without details, without names. This is a secret, court secret. NABU started this investigation. This information maybe was taken from the internet. We confirm this information. This is true, but we cannot provide more details on this at this moment. Thank you. Also, we have some more questions from the hall. Alexander Sivachenko, Suspilna Channel. About the stage of investigation of the case concerning Oleg Tatarov, who carried out this investigation, and when and what preventive measure will be selected. It is difficult to comment on this because procedurally we do not have this case. We cannot comment on this case because this is not our case. This will be incorrect to provide comments, but the information that is made public, this is carried out by SBU unit, and supervision is carried out by the Prosecutor's General Office. NABU and SAPO repeatedly appealed concerning the jurisdiction of the case, and also we were supported in this by High Anti-Corruption Court, and jurisdiction should be within NABU because this crime was committed by the person who was a deputy at that time. As of today, there is no answer, and the High Anti-Corruption Court is waiting for materials, and there is a stage of uncertainty in this case. By decision of Anti-Corruption Court, the case of Pechersky Court, this was stopped, and we demand these materials, the materials of this case, and the decision of Pechersky Court was stopped, and this provision is not implemented, and the decision of the Pechersky Court was suspended, the implementation of this decision. 70% of Ukrainians do not trust the work of NABU. Maybe you do not do much to improve the situation. So we have been speaking for an hour, and we provide answers to all questions. If you're interested, you may find information about NABU and SAPO. Maybe you may compare it with the State Bureau investigation, and so state bodies and law enforcement bodies, they do not have such a big attention like we do. And at the first stage, when the level of corruption is high in the country, and all the ways go to a small group of people, such as oligarchs, who have this media resources, and they form the agenda and what our citizens will watch. So this was in Ukraine and in other countries. The only way to discuss these topics is to come here, for example, and provide answers on our site, on our Facebook page, to provide information openly about those investigations that we carry out. One more question. Maria Pisarenko, Fifth Channel. I would like to disagree with the colleague that there are no big cases. Maybe they are not brought to the end. It depends on the cases. I would like to ask you about two cases, Pavlovov and Mr. Tatarov about Vovk. On the 8th of February, he was not brought to the court, and what are the prospects for preventive measure against Vovk, for example, forced handing over of charge or bringing him to the court forcefully? How can we bring him to the court? And about Mr. Tatarov, on the 8th, the day before yesterday, NABU sent a letter to the Prosecutor's General Office with a request to return him, the case of Tatarov, to the jurisdiction of NABU. Have you got any answer? And if not, what will be your further actions? I will remind a story that is going on for 2 years. NABU and SAPO, we are against many bodies. We are alone, and we see that in the district court they do not deliver justice properly. And we started investigation. We started with cooperation with the Department of Special Investigation of the Prosecutor's General Office. This was 2 years ago. And in 2 years, we haven't seen any assessment by other bodies or politicians. But we wanted to know their attitude, how they treat these cases. And the situation deteriorates. We lack the head of SAPO, and Maxim cannot sign procedural documents on special subjects, including judges. And here we fully depend, unfortunately, from the Office of the Prosecutor General. And the detectives are working on this case. They study these charges. They read for hours what no one wants to read, and this is not good for justice. And I would like to remind you that High Court, the plenum of the High Court also provided they commented on what is going on in this court, and everything is interconnected, and all these structures, they make a counter-strike through the High Council of Justice through the High Court, and not all decisions that should be taken in this case we can take in NABU or in SAPO. And without these decisions, this bringing people to court, this preventive measures, all these things become really complicated. This forced bringing a person to the court, this may happen, but the person said that they do not believe that this may be implemented. You should understand where this person is first, and we are trying to find these people. For example, the continuation of pre-trial investigation is, this thing is, for example, we wanted to have 6 months more, and the General Prosecutor's Office allowed us to have only 2 months. So it's difficult to foresee how the situation will develop. Also, the question about Office of Prosecutors General and what was the response to the letter of the office. In order not to speculate on this, unfortunately, these cases, they are accompanied by the number of emotional speeches. Pechersk court, there are a number of cases in it. Privatbank case concerning Privatbank, and they want to get this case from us, and Pechersk court goes into the discretion of the prosecutor, and he voluntarily provides this discretion to the Pechersk court, and prosecutor and the situation with jurisdiction should be resolved, and the prosecutor should follow the criminal code and should take into account that this procedural code does not allow to provide these cases to other entities, and this was ignored. And we have the third decision that was sent to the Office of the Prosecutors General, and they said that there is Pechersk Court decision, and the appellate chamber and the High Court stopped this decision, and the original of the case was seized concerning the change of the body of investigation. And the appeal chamber, they say that they cannot properly estimate this appeal because no one provides materials to them. They suspended the decision of the Pechersk Court. And then some people, now we face such a situation that the decision of the first, the court of the first instance, it is now set higher than it should be, and we didn't have it previously. In the past, the power was trying to do something, but they took into account the law, and now the law is being ruined. We have the last specifying question. I would like to specify the question that was provided by Reuters. When was the case started concerning buying of vaccines? About procedural actions and estimated sum of losses. On the 3rd of February, it was entered into the register of cases. And we cannot provide more information to you because this is a secret. And what was the article? You may send a request to us, and we will provide answer to your public request concerning this case. So this issue on vaccines, it only starts to get acute. What we see, the issue of healthcare, with the start of pandemic, it increased several times in its importance. And in NABU, we formed a unit, and we have units that have some specialization. We have a special unit of detectives who deal with the issues of healthcare. And in the Anti-Corruption Bureau, we understand that healthcare issues will become more and more important in the future. We have seen many publications concerning vaccines and other things. We understand that people are waiting for answers from us. And recently we held a meeting and we raised this issue, among others. And I stated that people will wait for answers from us, and we will be trying to carry out investigations as fast as we can and bring to responsibility those who were involved in these cases. Thank you very much, dear colleagues, for finding time to speak with us today and to highlight the results of anti-corruption bodies. We will remain in contact with you, and you may phone us, you may contact us from our pages, and thank you and goodbye.